back, everybody. Time for some more Grand Tactician, the Civil War, and as promised, I'm going to do my best to take a look at the Confederate side of the campaign. Remember, this is the beta version. It's not even the early release version that'll be out on August 21st. There are a lot of things that probably are not going to work as they should, but we're going to try to play through this campaign, and if it allows, and it seems like it's functioning at least somewhat decently well, we'll keep on playing. My Union campaign, I got about 3 episodes in before they issued a big update which reset the save game, and that may very well happen here, so be prepared for this. Up until early release, everything's just kind of up in the air, but we're just at least going to take a look at things from the Confederate side. And I'm going to start in 1862 because the 1862 version of the campaign is much more fleshed out than 1861. I think it should operate better. We will already have armies in the field. Things will already kind of be happening. We're going to start with industrialization, arms agents, and Kansas as a slave state as our 3 pre-war policies that are in effect. And I'm trying to hover over and see what those do, but it doesn't seem to be telling me. So but that's what we're going to do. We're going to start new. You can see here we're outnumbered about 2 to 1 in terms of the size of the armies. Better than 2 to 1 on the number of ships. We have slightly better morale, a little better experience. So we're going to have to play smart. And we certainly can't take a lot of risks, but let's dive in and see what happens. All right, so I did get a little bit of a look at what those pre-war policies did. One of them, of course, is just that Kansas is now a slave state. Another one is that there's more industry happening in the South because we have industrialization, more railroads are available to me. The other one has to do with something that actually was happening historically, which is that John Floyd, who was the Secretary of War under James Buchanan up to about January of 1861, just a couple of months before the war began, was secretly funneling arms and ammunition from northern armories and forts to southern ones, knowing that when the states seceded, those would be confiscated by the state governments and would be available to them. So a bunch more weapons and arms are available to me because of those actions of John Floyd. So that's something that it told me was happening as well. So here we are now. It's March 4th of 1862. Let's go ahead and pause because things are right here. You can see where things stand. We've got the Army of Mississippi down here based in Corinth. We've got a corps up here under Leonidas Polk. And we've got some divisions and such here. So we got to watch for Grant, who's going to be coming down, along with Don Carlos Buell. I think we're going to need to make our stand in Corinth and try to build that force up if at all possible. Albert Sidney Johnston's got about 35,000 men at his disposal. Let's go ahead and pull Polk back. And we're just going to make Grant come at us in Corinth and just do that as a combined force. Otherwise, that's what we're facing is about 100,000 man deficit. We're going to have to try to recruit some more. Look at the total casualties, pretty one-sided thus far. That certainly cannot continue. Let's look at our policies. I'm just going to let it auto-manage the policies for now, just so we can kind of continue to dive into the action. Let's look at our military. Here's the Army of Mississippi under Albert Sidney Johnston. We've got the Army of the West under Earl Van Dorn. That's the Trans-Mississippi Department. The Army of Virginia under Joe Johnston. If we were to replace him, I'm just curious to see. We do have Robert E. Lee available. We've got PGT Beauregard. We've got Samuel Cooper. Samuel Cooper was actually, I believe, the first 4-star general in the Confederacy, but he never served in the field. He was too old for that. Just wasn't something that was available to him as an option, kind of like Winfield Scott for the North. But I guess we could probably replace, but see, Johnston's got great leadership, a lot of cunning, and not a lot of initiative, and he's got some fame. So I'm hesitant to replace him right now. I think we'll keep him for at least for this point. So my first priority, I believe, is going to be to reinforce the Army of Mississippi. So let's go ahead and start doing that. We've got this cavalry brigades attached to each of the divisions, it looks like, or each of the corps. We've actually got a reserve corps and then 3 corps. Let's see, Leonidas Polk, Braxton Bragg, and William Hardy. So I'm going to go ahead and add an additional division to, I think, to Bragg's corps. And that's going to be under Henry Heath. Okay. And let's start creating some new units, and we'll add some of the ones that we had previously added for patrons, and hopefully get a chance to see them in action. So let's start with Nelson. I know Nelson had a artillery unit, so let's bring them up from South Carolina for that. And he wanted, I believe they were red. So we'll go ahead and make them all red, actually. So we'll go ahead and recruit this artillery battalion. We'll call them Nelsons. It'll take them some time to get, they're calling it Robertson's battalion, but this is going to be Nelson's. I guess we can't put an apostrophe in there. We'll even call them Nelson's Redcoats. How's that? All right, and if any of you patrons who have previously given me this information want it to be different, because now I'm fighting on the Confederate side, just reach out and let me know, and I'll change it. So Keith Cripe, of course, had one that was The Last Centurions, which was a reference to a John Ringo novel. And he wanted green uniforms and whatever rifles that were possible. He did say he'd like to have a dragoon unit. I don't know if that's possible. They're just cavalry on this side. I think the dragoons are only available in the historic missions right now. So we'll go with infantry. We'll do green uniforms. Keith, if you want that to be different, you just let me know now that we're on the Confederate side. But let's go ahead. They're going to be from North Carolina. And we'll go ahead and give them that name, The Last Centurions. You do notice there's some lag. That is the game. I get questions about that every so often. It is not my computer. It's the game itself that causes some of that lag. So The Last Centurions are also going to be in the same brigade, if I could spell it right, of course. There we go. And they'll be in the same brigade here with Nelson's Redcoats. All right, and then we're going to have Mills Brigade. Now, Zack, if you want this to be to still be blue, even though we are a Confederate unit, you let me know. But he wanted a blue unit on the Union side, so we're going to make this gray for this time being. So this whole division is going to be made up of the new patron units that are going to be joining as a part of Braxton Bragg's brigade, or his corps. So this is going to be the Mills Brigade, if I can spell. And it'll take some time for Heath's division to get into the field, but once they do, that's going to dramatically improve the odds for the Army of the Mississippi with 6,300 new men. Okay, and now we have the Army of Virginia and their 61,000 men. I want to go ahead and add to Stonewall Jackson's unit here in the valley, because I feel like there are a lot of troops in the 5th and 3rd Corps that could come down on him and just make things miserable for him if they so choose. So let's go ahead and take a look at Jackson's Corps, which is actually independent of the Army of Virginia. There's Stewart's division. I'm not sure where they are. Same with McCown's and Branch's. So these are all our garrisons. There's the Army of East Tennessee over around Knoxville. All of our fort garrisons, not too many left. Unless Jackson's Corps is a part of the Army of Virginia. I guess it is. So we need to add to that. He's only got 2 divisions, and one of them doesn't really have a lot in it. So let's go ahead and add a new Virginia brigade. So we do have some drafted troops now. But we're not doing any of that right now. Okay. So a new unit, let's see who they are. It's doing a little lagging. Oh, so it's going to be Stewart. Stewart, I think, historically commanded a Maryland brigade, but that'll work for now. Let's look at some of the other guys. We got George Pickett. Here's Raleigh Colston. Who else do we got here? I'm just looking at James Johnston Pettigrew, Samuel Anderson. There's Wade Hampton, John Bell Hood. So you can see all of these historic figures leading these units. Joseph Kershaw. Here's the Stonewall Brigade under Richard Garnett. Cool story. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. But when the Stonewall Brigade went into combat at the Battle of Chancellorsville, where Stonewall Jackson was mortally wounded, the commanding officer was Elisha Paxton, and he was killed at the Battle of Chancellorsville. Elisha Paxton is the great-great-grandfather of actor Bill Paxton, who's been in a lot of historic roles. He just sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But yeah, that was his direct male line great-great-grandfather, Elisha Paxton. So I thought that was kind of cool when I learned that. So the first thing we'll do, we actually put Theophilus Holmes in command because it's technically an army. So it's got a brigade underneath it. But we're going to send them up from Chattanooga where they're initially starting. Take some time for those orders to reach them. They're going to head up here to where the Army of East Tennessee is. I think we'll probably move the Army of East Tennessee forward. That's under Edmund Kirby Smith. So let's go ahead and move them forward because I need to at least occupy the 7th Division so that I can send that raiding force up into eastern Kentucky and we can start hitting some of the Union industry as best we can. In the meantime, we're going to protect against everything else. It does not appear, at least so far, that Grant is moving. Now, it's going to take a while for those orders to reach the First Corps to fall back to Corinth. But I don't think the Army of the Tennessee or the Army of the Ohio are going to be a threat to them before they're able to pull out of there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just keep this whole command together as best we can. I think I've got some cavalry here. Let's go ahead and send them out just to scout. I want to find the enemy. No, not everybody. That's artillery, that's why. I didn't want to send artillery, I want to send Lane. Alright, so let's send Lane over here. We'll keep everybody else right where they are. See if we can find the enemy. Look for anything that's blue on the battlefield. That'll tell me that he's captured a strategic point, which he hasn't. This might be a good spot right here to build a battle line if we can. Okay, nothing so far. So now we're going to send them out a little further out. I want to see what we can find without threatening my whole army. Looks like Paxton's artillery is going to go this way along with our commanding officer. The rest of the army is going to go this way. It's not really an army. It's really more of a large division. Okay, still nothing. So I think we're going to go this way because I'm really not planning on going that far south. So I'd rather keep to what's plausible as far as what I'm planning to do here. The main body is still pulling up on Perryville. All right, there we go. We've spotted that he's taken an objective here. So I think it's fair to say he's probably headed this direction. So let's go ahead and I want to look at the terrain for a second here. That's a good spot right there. I like this. If I could get up here to Bottom Hill and make that my defensive stand, that's really an ideal spot. If I can get there before he does, is the question. No, I don't want you to do that. All right, let's go ahead and bring Lane up to Sam Bottom. Peters Hill, I guess that is. And we're going to bring everybody else across. Oh, he just gave up that location. Now he took it again. All right, we just caught sight of a unit up here. So it looks like he's going this way. That's fine. It doesn't really change my plan a whole lot, except that maybe I want to go over here and occupy this ground instead. It's still a nice high ground, but that might even be better than the other one. We might throw some units to cover these crossings. But I like this as a battle line if I can make it happen. Okay, now we're getting our first sight of his entire force, which seems to be moving back and forth. So what I'm going to do now is I'm sending Steedman over here just to keep an eye on this crossing. But I'm going to go ahead and get my men into position on this hill. I'm also covering this crossing here. And then we'll wait and see what he does. So I ordered him into a defensive position, but unfortunately he went all the way to the back edge of the hill. He did deploy skirmishers from all of his brigades. But I don't like why the fact that he backed up that much, and now it looks like he's sending Stevenston over this way. In fact, all of them are kind of adjusting now. I'm not crazy about that, and of course the artillery is right here where the woods are in the way. So I'm not thrilled about how this has started out. Let's go ahead and pull the cavalry back over here. What are these guys doing? I really don't know what he's doing right now. In fact, we're shifting everybody away from the artillery, which is just worst case scenario right now. Come on, let's get everybody back over here. I'm going to have to micromanage, and that's the last thing I wanted to do. But since I don't have any divisions, and I just have these brigades, I kind of have to. And I need them to hurry up and get back to where they're supposed to be. Alright, too late for that, dude. You need to just stay here. That did not go the way I wanted it to at all. I'll bring these guys back here. No, not that way. I wish I could give them an order to go the direction I want them to. Because now he's coming right up that hill, pretty much unopposed. So it's going to take some getting used to wielding these troops in the field. They're really not behaving the way that I wanted them to, because I had a perfect position here. If I could have just gotten them to be where I wanted them from the start. Alright, let's see what happens. At least the artillery's got a decent position. Alright, now we're getting a little support here. Reynolds Brigade, 757 men. Mixed muskets. Next to them, Ledbetter's Brigade, 1,500 men. And then Barton's Brigade, 1,500 men. And now he's apparently rethinking his advance. We're a little out of range for infantry. That's okay. We'll just let the artillery do their thing for now. Let's get a overview of what's happening. Okay. So Carter Stevenson, 2,600 men. That's a big part of my force. I'm actually going to send him across. I want to bring Rains over here with the idea then that I'll bring him up on the other side of these guns. And then I'll be pretty happy with that. Let's get this other cavalry unit. No, I don't want you to go that way. I want you to go... Fine, go like this and then move up that way. I don't know if I broke these guys or if they're just skirmishing. They might be in skirmisher. Yeah, these are skirmishers. That's all he's got forward right now are skirmishers. Fine. Let's take our detached... or our dismounted cavalry up here against those skirmishers. 1,900 men. Come up there and drive them off if we can. Otherwise, I think we'll kind of sit tight where we are. Let's look at the numbers. Okay, so looks like so far we've lost 11 killed, 53 wounded, 7 missing, total of 71. Just 10 casualties on the Union side. So we're going to have to do better. But now that we're in a position that I'm pretty happy with, I think we're going to be okay. Let's go ahead and unpause. We're going to come up and drive off these skirmishers as soon as they get their orders to do so. And we're bringing this pretty large brigade under Stevenson across. Maybe we draw him out. I think he wants to attack me, but I'm trying to force him into a decision here. Actually, I think he wants me to attack him is what I mean. Actually, let's go ahead and send Rains across as well. We'll send... That'll give us over 4,000 men on that side of the river. And maybe that forces him to decide something one way or the other. Alright, so here come our dismounted cavalry now. And they're going to move up and try to drive off this batch of skirmishers over here who are harassing our artillery. We've lost 21 men in the artillery. That can't continue. Alright, so he's sending more skirmishers now. He does seem to be reacting to my move. Oh, Lane's lost 90 men, but they're stable at the moment. Once Rains gets into position over here, maybe we'll go ahead and start advancing. Is Lane pulling back? He is. Falling back under fire. He's outflanked. It's suffering flanking fire, I guess, because of the skirmishers are on two sides here. Okay. Let's go ahead and advance. No, not like that. I want you in a battle line. Now, is that 3 skirmisher units up here? And why is Edmund Kirby Smith riding out in front of them? There we go. Now they're... Yep. See? Now we're forcing him into an action, which is what I was hoping to do. So he wouldn't just sit there. So let me pause so I can give orders. I want to advance these brigades. Let's start putting pressure on him. Where's Stedman going? All right, now that's driving his... He's calling his skirmishers back. Looks like my artillery is able to fire so far, so we'll go ahead and leave them where they are. Wasn't sure they'd be able to fire over those trees. Alright, let's look at the numbers again. I want to see how things are going. So 34 killed, 166 wounded. We've lost a lot of men compared to him so far. Not thrilled with that at all. Okay, so I'm going to send those cavalry units out around the flanks, see if I can scout in behind him, and see how he's covering his flanks. In the meantime, I'm going to move these guys forward. Try to see if I can just squeeze into him over here and get some flanking fire on him. How are we doing on casualties here? 10 men lost in that brigade, only 11 there. So far so good. I think we need to get a little closer to be able to fire back. Advance forward a little bit. So we're going to push right down into him here. They haven't started firing yet. Oh, those are my couriers running right through the Union lines to go give them orders? All right, perfect. They were just out of bugle range, so I couldn't give them bugle orders. That's why they had to have a courier. Let's start firing on that artillery. What are we waiting on here, boys? All right, now it's going to get fierce. It's going to get real fierce. These guys have still not fired. I'm really not sure why. Because I could sure use it. There we go. Now it's going to get really serious. They're sending more brigades up. What is going on here? Oh, we're still waiting on the courier again. They're in range. I don't know why they're not firing. Alright, let's send Lane over here. I want him to at least notice my cavalry. See if maybe that shakes him into doing something a little different. How are we doing? Morale confident, stable, eager. But these guys have still not fired. They're being fired on. Alright, I think they're getting ready to fire. These guys are definitely firing. Rains' brigade is firing. I want to slow down to real time. Come on, Stevenson, why aren't you firing? Let's get a report. Alright, now we're starting to cause some casualties. 5% on both sides. We can afford that. We can afford equal casualties in terms of percentage. Oh, where's he going? They're fragmented and they're... Oh, Ledbetter, no. A lot of casualties. And they don't have a lot of men, so that's going to be difficult to have that continue. Stable. So he left skirmishers there and then pulled over to this spot. Not sure why that is. Meanwhile, my biggest brigade is still not firing, and I can't understand why. What are you waiting on? They've lost 60 men, they've got 2,600, and they will not fire. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Overhead. He's got some skirmishers that he's sending out this way, so let's send the cavalry a little closer on both sides. These guys are laying down now. So that's his artillery. What if I charge into these guys? Oh. Guys have lost a lot of men, but they're doing okay. What's our new estimate? Okay. 8% on both sides. Right, will you guys at least fire? They look like they're ready to fire. They still have not. Okay, you know what? Let's shift. See if maybe if we get them in a different position, they'll fire. What are they doing? That's the skirmishers. Did these guys break, or are they just redeploying? Yeah, they've lost a lot of men. They probably need to. Now will you fire? He just sent skirmishers forward. Stevenson has finally fired his first shots in this battle. Alright, let's bring up the cavalry. I haven't been looking at my dispatches, but I don't think there's anything of need. Except Ledbetter saying he's whipped, which I don't blame him. He lost a lot of men. These guys are in a tough spot. No, 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 no. Bring them up this way. Stevenson's in melee combat now. That's the unit I want in melee, that's for sure. They're huge. It looks like he broke the line. Okay, now I've only lost 10% to his 16%. So we just turned the tide in this thing, I think. Yeah, I think he's gonna break now. Let's go ahead and speed things up a little bit. And we'll let the commanders do their thing for a little while. And then we'll just check on the numbers every so often. Yeah, it's looking good. Looking real good. I'm pretty happy with how this has gone since the little bit of a problem at the beginning. Oh yeah, our cavalry just went in there and just broke his line. Alright, I think that's gonna do it. We can use this ceasefire button to kind of say, okay, let's go bury our dead. I'll give you a chance to pull out of here if you want. And he did. So I could press the attack and, you know, really destroy him. But in this case, I really just wanted to drive him off to make room for my raiding party to go into the north. So about 10% casualties for me. Pretty happy with that overall. It went pretty well, I think, considering. So we're going to wrap it up right there. That's a good start to this campaign. If you are one of the patrons at First Lieutenant on up, go ahead and give me your thoughts on all of that. And if you have an idea for a unit that you want, you just go ahead and shoot me a message, and I'll make sure I have that for the next episode. Drop a like if you would. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.